Happy Monday. What's up, everybody? Y'all gonna have to. I got a whiny dog in here tonight, so y'all gonna have to just bear with me here for a little bit. I don't know. She's been awful whiny all day. We're gonna talk some softball, baseball, recruiting, whatever y'all want to get into. We're gonna start it off with softball. Y'all ask me about softball a lot, and I look. I don't cover softball. I haven't covered the first game this year. I'm a baseball guy. So I'm going to bring somebody on here that does cover softball, knows a little bit more about it, can talk to you about it factually instead of me just glossing over what Valerie Cagle does and yada, yada, yada. Without further ado, welcome my guest, Kelly Stone. What's up, Kelly?
Hey, how's it going, JP?
So Clemson's got a pretty big softball game tomorrow, right?
Yes, sir. Taking on the Yardbirds down there in Columbia.
So tell us a little bit about what we can expect.
So South Carolina, we know what to expect from our girls. They come out every week and do what they do best. They hit the ball, and the pitching staff has proven themselves to be elite this year. They've taken the next step, in my opinion. And the stats are there to back that up. They currently lead the nation in ERA overall with a .72. That's absolutely outstanding as a staff overall. Billy Thompson, I think, has the highest ERA, and I say highest just there with a 1.1 ERA. So the girls are absolutely doing it so far. But as for what to expect of South Carolina, they're 24-7 on the year. A lot of that's mediocre to average competition. They're only 1-5 in SEC. The SEC does have a pretty decent, more than pretty decent. They're pretty good overall conference in softball. But to see them struggle so far, 1-5 in conference, it shouldn't be a struggle for our girls tomorrow. They should come out and handle business pretty well. I know a lot of fans are putting a lot on this game because of the recent losses in other sports. So they need to come out and handle business.
So the girls are ranked 5th, right?
Yes.
Most wins in the country. Am I getting that right?
Absolutely. So far, they've played the most games so far overall. A lot of teams have had some games canceled due to weather in the early conference out of conference tournaments down there in Florida. They got rained out some.
So, why do you think they are not ranked a little bit higher than 5th if they've got the most wins, only one loss?
The one loss was to their best competition so far in Tennessee. Tennessee is right there stat for stat with Clemson. You go through the stats, and it's Clemson and Tennessee. They're one within another, pretty close there. So that's one ding against them. Some of the games against competition we thought were going to be better this year. Northwestern being one, they haven't been nearly as good as we thought they were. Still solid competition, good test for our girls early on in the year, but overall strength of schedule so far hasn't been the strongest either.
That's what I was waiting on. I looked it up yesterday. They're 8th in the RPI, and of those top 5 teams, they've got the weakest strength of schedule. Not that the schedule strength is weak; it's just the weakest of those top teams. I can't remember what it was exactly, but it was of those top 5 teams, they had the weakest ranked schedule, and I would absolutely bank on that's why they're 5th, not a little bit higher.
Yeah, I think fifth is about right where Tiger fans should want and hope our girls to be right now.
Yeah, nothing. 5th is nothing to sneeze at. Who goes to the mound tomorrow for Clemson?
I absolutely think it's Valerie Cagle. I think Rittman has shown so far he's going to give her as many opportunities as she's willing to take. I really do think he is uh, putting forth a campaign for her to get Player of the Year with her pitching and her hitting. She's absolutely smacking the ball out of the park. She has an average well over 400, but I think it's Cagle that's going to take the mound tomorrow.
See there, I asked you that thinking you would already know. I'm sitting here thinking and assuming it's like baseball and they send out a rotation, and I just looked, and obviously it's not the same.
No, it's not quite the same. I'll find out tomorrow. Probably they send out the rosters the day of, but that's as early as I've been able to get it.
Well, man, we sure appreciate you talking a little softball with us. If anybody's got any questions, now is the time. While I got him on here, because I am not the guy to ask about softball. I can just tell you Valerie Cagle's good. I can tell you, you know, golly, what's the other pitcher's name? Her name's escaping me.
Millie Thompson.
Yeah, Millie Thompson. I can tell you she's good, man. But other than that, I'm gonna be, farting in the wind over here. So.
Yeah, well, you're spot on with that so far. Millie and Valerie do complement each other pretty well as a pitching staff. Valerie goes out there with her quiet confidence, and Millie, we see her antics both in the dugout and on the mound, or not, excuse me, mound pitching circle. I don't mean to misspeak there. It's not a mound in softball.
She's intense, man.
Yeah, she really brings the energy, and it seems the team feeds off of both of them, but especially Millie and her energy.
For those of you that do not know, Kelly Stone is a member of our team. He is covering softball for us, all ClemsonTigers.com. You can check out all his stuff over there. He'll have you covered for the game tomorrow. He's working on something. Tell us what you're working on there. I forgot.
Right now, I'm putting together a stat analysis of just how dominant Valerie and Millie have been so far, and the other pitchers as well. But just as I was alluding to earlier, just how well Valerie and Millie complement each other, both on the mound and in the dugout as teammates.
All right, I got you a question here. How is Clemson as far as youth on the softball team?
Okay, so youth on the softball team, we do have the 3 graduate transfers. But as far as youth, Marina Knowles was the highly touted recruit that Rittman brought in this season. We've seen her get limited action. She's gotten a few hits. She's already gotten her first collegiate hit. So it's really just going to have to play the waiting game unless one of them really starts to separate themselves, just because the talent ahead of them is just so deep. It's hard to crack that lineup.
So what you're telling us is there is some talent waiting in the wings.
There is young talent waiting on the wings. Rittman has done well using his connections, both from the softball prior and his national team connections. And he's really putting a nice recruiting base out there.
And I think Wayne here speaks for everybody and how they feel about how this game will play out tomorrow. Beat the Shamecocks.
Absolutely. And everything.
All right, man. You want to hang out for the rest of the show?
Sure, why not? If you'll have me.
We're going to talk a little bit of baseball. Then we're going to jump into a little bit of recruiting. And we're going to try to get out of here before 8 o'clock tonight.
Sounds good, man.
That is something I am intent on doing. We've been going an hour every week for weeks, and I am intent on shortening that down some. First, we're gonna talk a little bit about the weekend. In Atlanta, Georgia Tech, Clemson avoids the sweep Sunday by winning the finale there. I forget the score, 14-5 or whatever it was. Kind of an odd series, man. If you look at it. You look at it on the surface, and it's like, man, Clemson's pitching is just terrible, yada, yada, yada. But if you dig a little deeper into this thing, Friday night, Clemson, that game went 11 innings. Clemson's pitching gives up 4 runs. I think 3 of them ended up being earned runs. One of them was unearned. 2 of them should have been unearned. home cooking. You know how to scoring goes at a home stadium. But Will Taylor misplaced 2 balls in the outfield, allowing 2 runners to score, including the tying runner in the ninth. I have a hard time putting that game on the pitching staff, especially when they allow 4 runs in 11 innings and your offense manages just 4 hits and strikes out 17 times. I don't want to hear about the pitching when the offense is striking out 17 times and getting 4 base hits. Saturday was the really weird game to me. Georgia Tech came out and put it on early, jumped up big. Caden Grice ends up hitting a 3-run. I think it was a 3-run homer to pull them within 6-3 or pull them within 3 runs. And thought it was interesting who the coaching staff rolled out there out of that bullpen, because Tristan Smith just did not have it Saturday. Kind of one of those days where he looked like the freshman that he is. That kid's got electric stuff, and he is going to be good, but it's easy to forget he's still a freshman. First option out of the pen, Nick Hoffman, and then they went with Ty Olin. I can't remember the order, but Ty Olin, Chuck, and I think Jay Dill got in there, and I forget who else. But, guys that just have not been very effective out of that bullpen this year. It was almost like, hey, we're going to save our guys for Sunday and, take one here. And if that – I'm not saying that was the thought process, but if it was, it worked to perfection. Caden Grice, strong start Sunday. Bullpen was fantastic yesterday, and that series finale and fending off the sweep. They play in Columbia tomorrow, College of Charleston. Ethan Darby gets to start. He's been your midweek starter here the last couple of weeks. Hasn't been done too bad of a job either. We'll see if he can keep that up tomorrow in Columbia. I don't think Clemson's won a neutral site game yet. I want to say they are 0-2 on the season in neutral site games, so we'll see if they can change that tomorrow. I will be there in Columbia. Vandervoort's going to be in Columbia covering the softball game. It's in Columbia, right?
Yes, it is.
We got you covered on both ends. Now, what y'all all love to talk about, the recruiting. Spring break is over. Practice started back up today. Matter of fact, we got to hear from Tyler Grisham, CJ Spiller, Will Shipley, Phil Moffa tonight. So practice is back, amped up, ready to roll. That means visits are once again taking place, and might have been at least one that took place during the break.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to catch my drift there.
Are those are the new shades?
Indeed.
All right. Just an observation there.
Probably the biggest news of the weekend, Aaron Nolan. He visited Miami this weekend. I think he was at Texas A&M today. But coming off that Miami visit, he names his finalists, announces he's committing on April the 8th. And I've always thought Miami kind of held the upper hand in this thing heading into the spring, and I have heard nothing, not anything substantial enough to change my mind about that. He's still got to visit. He's still got a visit he's got to take to Ohio State later this month. So calling it now before he takes that visit, calling it now for any school, in my opinion, is premature. You don't ever rule Ohio State out, especially when, we're talking about quarterbacks. So let's let him get through that visit, see where we stand. This is not a recruitment I have a good feeling about, though. Again, nothing substantial to base that on. Just one of those gut things. I've never had a good feeling about it. I thought Clemson got in a little late in the game with him announcing so quickly here in April. Doesn't give them a realistic shot at getting him back on campus. I would feel a whole lot better if they were able to bring him back and not just have that one visit. But it is what it is. Clemson had other targets higher on the board. Let's say they miss on Nolan. I can't tell you who they're going to turn to next. There's a kid in Georgia, last name Nickel. He might be an option. I know there's at least been a little bit of communication there. I don't think they are going to just pocket the scholarship and wait till 2025, though. I think they still want to add a quarterback. If they miss on Nolan, they'll regroup, see who's still available, and go from there. I know Jake Merklinger is a name that gets talked about a lot. Don't really, if you're late to the party with Aaron Nolan, you're going to be late to the party with Merklinger. So I don't think that's a realistic option at this point, even though I think they could have made some inroads if they would have decided on him being the top target a long time ago. But they had hot guys higher on the board and went in a different direction. Sometimes it works, sometimes it don't. How about you, man? What you feeling on Aaron Nolan here?
Yeah, I have to agree with you. I think we got to the dance a little late. He had already had a number or two with the team, and just a little late to that party. And hopefully, like you said, we have somebody else to focus on after him, because I don't feel confident about that one either.
Well, one thing I think going in Clemson's favor here, and not necessarily with Nolan, I mean just in general, I don't think it's imperative that they sign a highly rated top-level quarterback in this class. You've got a sophomore in Cade Klubnik, a true freshman in Chris Vizina. Klubnik was a 5-star coming out of high school. Vizina was a 5-star right until the early signing period when he got dinged for whatever reason in the rankings. Still don't know why. Just one of those.
He didn't go to an SEC school. Sorry.
Just one of those mysteries that we'll never know the answer to. But that's neither here nor there. Still 2 5-star talents, both underclassmen. I have said many times that I thought that was gonna make it more difficult for Clemson to sign a top-rated guy out of this class. One thing about the Clemson coaching staff, they are very transparent. They tell you exactly where things stand. They're not going to shoot you a lot of BS and promise you early playing time just to get you to sign. They're going to be upfront with you and be real with you. And, a lot of these quarterbacks, they don't want to come sit 2 or 3 years. And if Nolan comes to Clemson, he's taking that chance. Although, let me add, I don't think it would be out of the question for him to come in here and beat Vizina out. I think he's that good. But is that a chance he wants to take when he can go somewhere else and be guaranteed early playing time? There's always a lot of factors in play. Always a lot of factors in play. Kevin Brown Schuler, when will he commit? No commitment date on that yet. We'll have to see. No date on that one yet. That is one, if I was a Clemson fan, though, I would feel very good about.
Is Easton the primary recruiter on him?
Yes, sir. And if Clemson can land him, they will be done at defensive tackle in this class. They're only taking 2. They've already got Champ Thompson locked up, who I think is severely underrated. I think he's got an extremely high upside. Then you're going to take 2 defensive ends too. So move on to the ends and see who you can get on campus for that big first weekend in June. I know C.J. Jackson has said he's coming. I don't know if that's set in stone yet. I know he said publicly he's coming, but we'll see when we get closer to that event. The offensive line, I think one of the top guys on the board is Jamison Riggs. I think that's one guy Clemson really wants in this class. Other guys to know are Casey Poe, Egan Boyer, and they're going to take 3 and probably maybe as many as 4, but they're definitely going to take 3. Those are 3 of the names to know. I talked to Poe a couple of weeks ago, said he wanted to come back, wasn't sure if he'd be back for that official visa weekend in June. Want to say Boyer will be here that weekend. When you start seeing which guys show up for that weekend, you'll start seeing who's seriously considering Clemson. Like, for example, at one time I thought Jonathan Paylor was going to be there. Today, I don't expect him to be there that weekend. I think Clemson's got to move on from him And, we've already seen the board expand at wide receiver. The last couple of times he was supposed to come in, something came up and he couldn't make it. He hasn't been there since the South Carolina game, if I'm not mistaken. And he's probably a pretty strong South Carolina lean right now. Doesn't sound like he's going to be here in June either. So I would just say that when it comes to the offensive linemen, the closer we get to June, the guys that you see that'll be visiting that weekend, that are the guys. Those will be the guys that are the top targets. That'll be the guys they want, and that'll be the guys that they have the best shots with, because that is the guys that they bring in for that weekend. And I want to say Boyer has told me he's coming. Don't hold me to that. I'd have to go back and check. My memory sucks. I've told you that before. And I never learned my lesson. I should take notes on some notes before I do these things, and I don't. I just do them off the top of my head. No more. If you got some recruiting questions, now the time to drop them. We're gonna move on to the spring game. I'm gonna let Kelly take this one first. Who you keeping an eye on at the spring game?
Ooh, that's a good one. Eye on the spring game. I'm going to look at the receivers. I'm going to see if anybody can show me something that I haven't seen before, because we're going to need somebody to step up.
Yeah, Noble Johnson will be one guy I'm absolutely keeping an eye on. He's the only early enrollee receiver on campus. We know Adam Randall won't be taking part in the spring game. Bo Collins won't be taking part in the spring game. Doubt Troy Stellato will be taking part in the spring game. So Noble Johnson is going to have opportunities. He's a guy I have been anxious to see live in action. So he is a guy I will be looking for. On the defensive side of the ball, there's a couple I'm going to be looking at. Peter Woods, all those defensive linemen. Peter Woods, Vic Burley, Stephon Green, and TJ Parker, defensive end. He's a guy that I've been anxious to see live. And on the back end, Shelton Lewis. I'm hearing great things about him. Had a pick six in the scrimmage last weekend. He got here early, practiced during bowl prep a little bit, so he's been here a little bit longer than some of the other guys. Those are the main guys I'll be watching in the spring game as far as freshmen go. But for me, the biggest thing, I want to see how smooth the offense rolls. The last couple of years, the spring game has been very – let's face it, it's been boring. It's been bland. It's been very vanilla. Fully expect it to be vanilla again. But the last couple of years, it's just not – the offense has not looked great in the spring game. It's felt discombobulated, disjointed at times. And I want to see if we can see a offense with a little bit more of a smoother flow, if that makes sense. A little bit more cohesion, guys all on the same page, and how Cade Klubnik is taking charge and leading this team. Those are the things that I'll be looking for at the spring game. And for all of those worried about the ACC network cutting it off before the end, I have been told it will be shown in its entirety this year. Now, if it gets cut off, I'm just a messenger now. That's what I've been told. I don't make that decision. How many linebackers is Clemson taking? I think the number's 2. That's another one that wouldn't shock me if it got to 3 at some point, though. Right now, I think the number's 2. And I think Sammy Brown and
Sammy, how do you feel about Sammy Brown?
And Drew Woodaz are the 2 top guys right now, but they just offered another linebacker here recently, so it makes you think maybe they will go with 3. But I like Clemson's chances with Sammy Brown. I have always liked their chances with him. Don't think it's a done deal. I'm not saying he's coming to Clemson or anything like that. I think this is Clemson, Georgia. Like I said on here a week ago, I think I've had 3 fairly long conversations with Sammy over the past year. And he always talks about culture. It's a big thing with him. He always goes back to culture. And I think the culture at Clemson is something that has really made an impression on him. He talks about how players were I think he's the one that was telling me how players were, picking up stuff after practice, not letting other people pick up behind them. It's little things like that stick out to these guys that are so big on culture. And Sammy Brown's one of those guys. I think Clemson's depth chart probably helps him a little bit with Sammy Brown. That doesn't mean I'm saying he's scared of competition, because I don't think that kid's scared of anything. But, Georgia's roster is loaded with 5-star linebackers. Clemson's got Barrett Carter and Jeremiah Trotter, and both those guys could potentially leave after the season. So there is definitely an opportunity for early playing time at Clemson for Sammy Brown, and that's even without those guys leaving, man. That is a kid who is good enough to make his mark and get on the field as a freshman, regardless of what happens with those two guys. But if you're Clemson, I think you got to feel pretty good about where things stand with him. He's already said he's going to be here in June. He's already been here for a visit this spring. He's one of those guys that if you follow the visits, you got to feel good where the Tigers stand, because he always keeps coming back. And when the guys keep coming back the way he has, those are the guys that tend to end up committing to Clemson. Alex Taylor, first receiver offered in this class. He has told me that he was going to try to get up here this spring. No promises, but said he would be here in June for the official visit weekend. I still like Clemson's chances with him. I got to be careful how I say this. I think if Clemson wants Alex Taylor, they'll get Alex Taylor. Again, first receiver offered in this class. The number's 2. Wouldn't shock me to see it get to 3. I really like where they stand with Alex Taylor. I like where they stand with Braylon Staley. We'll see if they can get TJ Moore here in June. Don't have a real good feeling about him in Clemson. I don't know why I just got this. My gut tells me that recruitment's got Ohio State written all over. I don't know why. It's just what my gut says. My gut's been wrong before. So we'll see if they can get TJ Moore here in June. Staley, I expect Staley to be here. Taylor's told me he'll be here. But, yeah, I think Clemson's in pretty good shape with Taylor right now. North Carolina State, North Carolina, Clemson, those are the teams to kind of keep an eye on. I don't know if I thought it was going to be on ACC Network. I don't know. I don't pay attention to that. I watch everything by stream, so that's neither here nor there with me. Same thing either way for me. But yeah, I want to say it's on the ACC Network, but I could be wrong about it. Yeah, I think there is I touched on this a minute ago. I think there is a very distinct possibility Clemson takes as many as 4. Definitely take 3. I think they could easily take as many as 4. Absolutely. Just like last cycle. Don't think they'll take a 4th just to take a 4th. But they would have added a 4th last cycle if they could have found the right guy. And I think they'll take a 4th this time if they find the right guy. I'm going to let Kelly take this one, man. Scale of 1 to 10.
I think that's a 12, right?
I'm going to go with Kelly, man. Yeah, our boss likes to have a little fun with us here. Yeah, I'm absolutely with Kelly. You gotta expand the scale. It's gotta go higher than 10. And he doesn't snore, man. Anybody that doesn't snore is A-okay in my book.
Well, I snore. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I can't tell you that, man. I can't tell you when that's gonna play out. Oh, being serious, I'm not in the businesses of business of ruining anybody's surprise. It's not for me to say. I can just tell you when I'm pretty sure one's coming, and I'm pretty sure one's coming fairly soon, fairly quickly. See, I almost said it, Zach. I almost said it since you brought it up. Vandervoort is like a freight train. Freight train.
Suck the paint off the wall.
Oh yeah, he'll tell you too. Aaron Nolan, we touched on him a little bit earlier. I give you the Cliff Notes version. You can go back and watch the beginning. We talked a little softball, then I dove into Aaron Nolan. But as everybody knows, he visited Clemson, a few weeks ago for one of the junior days. That's when he got his offer. He was at Miami this weekend. I think he went to Texas A&M today. Still got a visit to take to Ohio State. Doesn't have an offer from Ohio State yet. I fully expect one to come that weekend. This is just, he announced yesterday. I don't know if it was wild or either maybe the day before yesterday. He announced his finalists and his commitment date of April the 8th. Either while he was still in Miami or right after he was left his visit from Miami. Whether that has anything to do with which way he's leaning, I have no idea. I don't know if that's a good thing for Miami or not, but I have always felt Miami held the cards going into the spring, and there has nothing happened since to make me change that. I still think Miami holds the cards. But I say what I said earlier. Let's get through the end of the month, let him take all the visits and see where we are then. Things can change on a whim in some of these recruitments. And again, he hasn't even been to Ohio State yet. All right, here's one for you, Kelly. Most needed position in the 2024 recruiting standpoint. Most critical position.
For 2024?
Yeah, the class we're recruiting right now. Your opinion?
Probably secondary. I'd say secondary. Right. We're about to have some graduate and draft losses, and we're going to need to stack that back up.
Yep, Sheridan Jones will be gone. Jalen Phillips, R.J. Mickens, those guys could, Makuba could possibly be gone after this season. So I would say
that the cupboard is not bare. Sorry to cut you off. Not that the cupboard.
Go right in.
Not that the cupboard is not bare. We have plenty of highly touted recruits that have just needed to have some things cleaned up surgically, and once they get fully healthy, I think we can see them take an expanded role and really blossom with it.
Oh man, I am extremely high on Jaden Lucas. I think that kid's got mad skills, and I think he's going to be really good. I think Toriano Pride's going to be good too. I think some of those safeties they signed in 2023 were a little underrated. And again, I think Shelton Lewis I think he's got the potential to be a star, and I really like Khalil Barnes too. So I mean, they got talent to work with in that secondary. For me, there's not one position. I'm going to go with defensive end because they are so thin there, and I'm going to go with linebacker because if you lose Trotter and Carter after this season, talking about the cupboard being bare, the cupboard's going to be a little bit bare, and that would make hitting on Sammy Brown even that much more important. I mean, I like the guys, some of those guys they got. I like TJ Dudley. I think Wade Woodaz is good back there at the Sam. But they got to restock that linebacker position just like they got to restock that defensive end position. A little thin in both spots. So I'm going with defensive end and linebacker as the two most critical spots in the 2024 class. Anything else? If not, we're going to bring this thing to a screeching halt. All right, man. Hey, appreciate you, Kelly, from coming on, man. I need to bring you on more regularly to talk some softball because I am absolutely not the guy to do that.
Absolutely. Anytime to talk about these girls and how awesome they are, I'm always down for that. So
I have gotten bombarded in the last week from some people telling me they don't get enough coverage. So I thought I would bring you on and give them a little bit of coverage because, again, I am not the guy to do it. I'm no softball expert by any stretch. And if I'm going to talk about them and give them some coverage, I want somebody that knows what they're talking about.
absolutely, I appreciate the opportunity, and I look forward to doing that for some more.
All right, Dale. You talking about the 2025 defensive lineman from right here in Lake City. I'll just, we way too early to start talking about 2025 guys. We just getting started with them. Clemson is not even offering them yet. Do expect him to visit here soon, but as far as who he's leaning towards, I'll say this: Lake City's been kind of a pipeline for South Carolina. The kids that do come out of that school, a lot of them tend to end up in South Carolina. And I if I had to name a favorite this early on, I would say South Carolina.
Never count someone out once they get on campus, though. You know that.
What position do I feel is lacking being developed the most? I don't know. Ask me again after this season, and I might have a different answer because I think we're going to find out about the development. I think we're going to find out a lot about the development of the wide receivers this season because I'm still keeping an open mind on that. I know wide receiver play has fallen off a cliff the last couple of years, but a lot of those guys haven't been able to stay healthy. And let's face it, they haven't gotten the best quarterback play either. So I think there's a lot of factors in play there. I don't want to – it's easy to say it's all coaching. I just don't know if that's the case. I think we will know the answer to that after this season. If we still got big-time wide receiver issues, then, that the answer becomes kind of obvious. I would also go, I thought offensive line were a little slow to develop under Robbie Caldwell. And that's not a knock on him. It's just the way things were done. It's just – see how I can say this because it's not – Clemson is not bringing in five-star offensive linemen. So they're not bringing in all these guys that are ready to play right away. Most of the guys they bring in need a year. Some of them need two. Heck, some of them need a year and some of them need two. So I think a lot of that was probably a little bit more impatience on my part than it was development. But I do think that Clemson has recruited at a little bit higher level here over the last 2-3 cycles. And I love the direction that the position group is taking under Thomas Austin. I think he knocked it out of the park with those three guys last cycle. Two of them were very highly rated. Ian Reed was fairly highly rated. All of them were 4-star guys. A couple of them, I think 2 of them were high 4 stars. I think Zach Owens might have been a top 100 player at the end of the cycle. Again, I don't pay that much attention to recruiting rankings because they change so much. I know Owens at one time was in the top 100 and he ended up taking a big ding. He tore his ACL last year and couldn't play. I don't think you should take a ding for getting hurt. I mean, he took a big hit in one of the updates. But,
watch the film on those offensive line recruits. Just watch the film.
That's exactly what I say, man. Just turn on the film, and sometimes you got to keep in mind who they're playing, the competition and that stuff. But it ain't hard to see the players and to see guys that are dynamic and see guys who can cut and turn on a dime and the guys that have speed and all that. That's what I do. I just go and cut on the film. But back to your question, to me, I think it's absolutely fair to question the development of the wide receivers over the past couple of years. But at the same time, I'm not ready to sit here and say, coaching is the main reason for it. Again, you've had a lot of injuries at wide receiver over the past couple of years. We've seen it again this spring. And they have had piss poor quarterback play for 2 years. That's going to impact your wide receivers. So I'm going to keep an open mind on that and see what happens this season. Ask me again in 6 months. I might have a different answer. And with that, we shall bid y'all adieu. Say thank you to Kelly Stone. Gave y'all some softball talk tonight. Always love the recruiting questions. This time next week, we can get more into spring football after they'll be back on the practice field a week. We'll have heard from some coaches, some players. I think they have. I don't remember when the next scrimmage is. Might be next week instead of this week. But anyways, we'll have more to talk about. And we can talk about whether Clemson beat South Carolina on the softball field tomorrow. AllClemsonTigers.com. Catch me there. Catch Kelly there. All his softball stuff's there. Yeah, all my recruiting stuff. Everything else is there. Appreciate y'all tuning in. See y'all next Monday. Thanks, Kelly.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.